12 Friday the 13th movies. I wish there was another Friday the 13th movie so I can make it top 13. Alright. Dumb joke. I'm just going to get right into it. Wow, that was bad. Number 12. The worst Friday the 13th movie. I'm gonna put this out there right now. The first two are really, really bad on this list. Number 12, I have The Final Friday. Friday the 13th Part 9. Jason Goes to Hell. This movie's bad all around. And I'll explain my various reasons why. So this movie, in the very beginning, the government decides they're going to shut down Jason, and so they blow him up. But the bounty hunter explains the whole synopsis of this movie, which is, only through a Voorhees was Jason born. Only through a Voorhees can he be reborn, and only a Voorhees can kill him. So Jason possesses people. He goes on killing people like that throughout the entirety of this movie. And that's bad. That's not Friday the 13th. It's not how any of these movies are supposed to go. It's a nice attempt to spice things up, but it just doesn't work. To kind of put it in perspective how bad this movie is, when you, at least for a while, I'm not sure anymore because I haven't had the need to, if you buy a Friday the 13th collection of DVDs, this one wasn't included in it. You would get 1 through 8, and that was it. You didn't get 9. So I was like, oh, 9 must be either really good or really bad, and it's really bad. And then the other thing is, they sell this movie, and this is not so much that makes this movie bad, it's just a bad call on the movie. When they sell the DVD of this movie, you get the unrated version and the R-rated version on a disc. Why would you do that? Why would you watch the R-rated version if you have the unrated version? It makes no sense to me. There's only 2 good things that come from this movie, which is one at the end, Freddy's arm coming up out of the ground and grabbing Jason's mask. That sequel base for 10 years to Freddy vs. Jason, and then the Necronomicon being in the Voorhees house, which was originally, I guess, just an homage, and the dagger from Evil Dead's in there too, but it goes to Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, which is a comic series that not many people know about. That's actually really good, where they combine Evil Dead with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. So, yeah. Number 11, I have it's not Friday. It's Jason X. Again, this movie came out of just a need for another Friday the 13th movie. I think came out in 2001. Yeah, 2001, 2002, something like that. Because they wanted another movie. Sean Cunningham wanted another Friday the 13th movie made, and so they took Jason into the future, which I don't like, because there's these people who are from like 1,000 years in the future, or whatever the timeline of the movie is, and they have these big guns, and they know what they're doing, and then Jason just kills them. These movies aren't realistic, but this is the least realistic one of them all, and I don't like that. Again, about the only good thing that happens in this movie is the Uber Jason at the end, which, it's kind of cool that they made Jason a cyborg, but at the same time, why? It still doesn't make too much sense to me, so, yeah, that's why this one sucks. So those are the only 2 that really, outright suck. So now, well, I guess, okay, my number 10 does as well, I forgot. Number 10 is, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. This was a follow-up after the final chapter where they kill off Jason and Tommy Jarvis is gone crazy. So Tommy goes to a mental health retreat where he's staying at in a rural area with people because of he's messed up from his experience with Jason. And then one of the kids gets brutally murdered by one of the other people there with an axe, and then the Jason murders start happening. And then it turns out in the end, when Tommy helps kill him, that it's a paramedic who was the father of the guy who got axed to death, and it's just an imposter. Yeah, this movie sucks. Well, not only just because it's not Jason. I get it trying to spice it up and make it different, but I don't know. It didn't work out. I get it. They were trying to maybe homage to the first movie by you find out literally at the end of the movie who the killer is, but I don't know if it didn't work here. Just because it worked then doesn't mean it works here. And this movie has the highest body count of any Friday the 13th movie, possibly any slasher movie, or at least mainstream slasher movie. It's 22 deaths. 22. And literally some of these deaths are people who are introduced 1 minute and then like 2 or 3 minutes later are killed off. Like, that's not good. At least there's got to be character build up for all of that. So, no. This movie kind of sucks. Actually, not kind of. This movie does suck. Number 9, I have Friday the 13th Part 3. This is where this is where the Friday the 13th movies kind of start to get somewhat watchable, in my opinion. This one is, again, this one's okay. The things that this movie does right. I mean, it sticks to the formula that the first 2 movies had set up. In this one, Jason gets his hockey mask, which is so iconic now. I mean, a lot of people think that Jason always had it. No, he gets it now. Jason also is made a little bit more of a better character in a way, at least for just this movie. He's made into a sexual deviant by chasing after Chris years before, which I think actually made him a little bit more interesting of a character. Though nothing else has ever come up of this ever, I think it just made it interesting. So, yeah, but what really brings this movie down is the 3D. Up until recently, you couldn't get this movie in 3D. Unless you saw it in theaters in 3D, you couldn't get this movie in 3D. So and that brought the movie down because this was early 3D, where it's not like uninvasive 3D. Like, you can get uninvasive 3D like now, but like, this one's just it's so awkward. Some of the shots, like, it's like early 3D, so they're trying to show off the 3D, so it's like a rat crawling across a stick and it's coming out of the screen, and it's such a long shot. It's like, ooh, I could see maybe in the 80s that being a cool shot, but without 3D now, it sucks. Now, I'm not going to say this movie can't go up in opinion. It wouldn't jump up too far in my opinion, in my list, but it might jump up a little bit simply because now they do have it released with the 3D, so maybe someday I'll go out and I'll buy it with 3D, and then I'll, see if it makes it any better actually having the 3D there. Or maybe it'll just stay the same. I don't know. That was number 9. Number 8. Wow, that's actually really funny because I had Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. This movie should have been really cool, The movie was originally supposed to be, they're on the boat for like a third of the movie, and then they spend 2/3 of the movie in New York, which would have been really, really cool. But I guess because of budget problems and things like that, and production team, it ends up being the reverse. You spend most of the movie on the boat and only a little bit in New York. And it's just, I don't know. That brings this movie down a lot. Otherwise, I like this movie. Probably, in some ways, the most realistic way to bring Jason back. I mean, he's laying at the bottom of the lake, and then I don't know how long it is, because like it seems like he's in a much rural that they're like how long goes between Part 7 and Part 8, because Crystal Lake looks different. But the character Rennie, that's her name, Rennie. She has like visions of Jason because I guess Jason tried to drown her as a kid, which is an interesting plot device, but I don't think it works. I mean, it doesn't really bring the movie down too much, but it just kind of makes some awkward storytelling in some parts. And then, but I think what makes this movie really cool is it shows off Jason's improvisation skills by him being able to kill with whatever he can find. And I think that, that's one of the things that makes this movie work. Like I said, this movie should have been a lot better. If I could make a list of movies that deserve to be remade, it should be this one. This one should be remade just because it would do this movie a lot more justice. And it would hop up a lot on my list, I would venture a guess, if they remade it. So, yeah, it's number 8. Number 7, again, another kind of odd coincidence. I have Part 7. Everybody hates Part 7. I don't know why. But this is where genuinely all the Friday the 13th after this are good. it's being nitpicky kind of from this point. Well, maybe not so much, but I actually really like this movie. This is probably out of all of them, if I had to do like instead of the best Friday 13th movies, do my personal favorites. This might be like my third personal favorite. Um, for numerous reasons. I think the character Tina being a psychic and having powers to move things with her mind um, is a nice match to Jason. You know, some of the things like lighting Jason on fire or shocking him or, you know, knocking him down the stairs and him falling through the stairs is really cool and stuff like that. Also, this is the first movie with Kane Hodder, who is the only guy who plays Jason that matters, in my opinion. Some big, stocky, you know, guy who looks like he's a badass. And then it's why, I mean, what, he was Jason for 4 movies? He played Jason in part 7, 8, 9, and Jason X, he played Jason. So I think, yeah, he's the guy that matters. And then, yeah, and I think Jason just looks the best in this movie. This is the best Jason appearance, you know, because he's tore up. You can see his spine. He's got flesh missing. You know, I think his whole design is so much better in this movie than in any other Friday the 13th movie. He just looks badass, and so, I guess just in terms of it being an action movie, like it's not the best, but I like this movie a lot. Number 6, I have Freddy vs. Jason. For a crossover, this is really good. I mean, crossovers usually don't fare too well anymore, but you get some cool Jason moments in here. You know, Jason being lit on fire and killing people at a party. The killing of the of the one guy in the cornfield where he just spins his neck around and then pushes him over. The very first kill of the movie where he stabs the guy in the bed and then folds it in half and breaks his back. That's cool. Like, it works, and they make Freddy and Jason come together in a way that's not intrusive, in a way. It would kind of make sense, you know. And I like it. I mean, I really, again, this is another movie that everybody seems to hate, but I like. I think if they ever made a sequel or they remade this one, I'd be all for it. I would be. I'd be so happy. Okay, number 5. Now this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of what is and what isn't a good Friday the 13th movie. Number 5, I have the first one, Friday the 13th Part 1. I know a lot of people are probably like, oh, but that should be the best one. Keith, that should be the best one. I don't think so. This movie is okay. It's a nice starting point for the franchise. I like how simplistic it is in a way, you know. It kind of had gotten to the point, so maybe at points in later installments, where you need to come up with ways to kill people, whereas this one, it's like, oh, stab him from underneath the bed, hit him with the axe, shoot somebody with a bow. Have somebody else die. You know, killing people off like that, you know. It's really simplistic. And then I think the big reveal at the end, which comes out of nowhere, of Pamela Voorhees is really cool. And again, it works. It doesn't work in Part 5. It works here. And I mean, the whole Jason jumping out at the end was a legit scare that nobody saw coming. And then, I mean, it sparked interest in the rest of the series. So, yeah. This is a good movie. This is iconic, definitely, which is why it's on my list. Number 4, I have Part 2. Part 2 is really good. I mean, honestly, Part 2 might even be would have been my second or third, but there's just a couple things about it. You know, actually bringing in Jason and killing off, I don't remember her name from the first movie, the girl who kills Mrs. Voorhees. Right in the early, it was a nice touch. You know, it's a nice way to bring the movies back around. And I think it just works. You know, killing, how he kills. I think the camera. This movie actually has some of my favorite camera work of any Friday the 13th. Like following Jason while he holds a knife over the girl, and you see his black fingernails, and it just works really, really well. And there's a couple parts I really like. I like the shack that Jason built where he has his mother's head in a shrine, but you know, you never hear about that in the later movies, which is one of the reasons why I don't like it. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Some things, I mean, that's about the only thing that brings it down. Is like there's a lot of cool things like that in this movie that just don't show up ever again, like that, and then, oh, I'm trying to think. But yeah, I just think this this is a good Friday the 13th. I really like it. Number 3, to kind of, wow, I'm sensing a theme here. Number 3, I have the Friday the 13th remake. A lot of people kind of don't like the remake. Again, but I like it. I think it does the film's justice. I think making Jason a much more fit individual, giving him the ability to run, makes sense. And giving Jason a brain, it seems definitely in the later movies, Jason's just a mindless walking killer. He's not the tactically thinking person that he kind of is in the first couple movies. Up until like I say maybe the last one where he's like a smart individual is like 6. After that, like he's just becomes a brain dead killer. But like this, he's a tactical thinker. He plans things, and it's just really cool. And I think the cast works really, really well, and yeah, it's there's so many homages to older movies, like the shacks in this movie, where you see Jason has a shrine to his mom's head. Like that's cool. Like again, they kind of brought that from the second movie. I mean, I hope maybe they make a reference to that later. Because I think they're doing a sequel, or maybe another reboot. I'm not sure which. And then I like Clay, and like I think the characters again in this one are genuine. These probably, besides my number 1, probably some of the most genuine characters out of any Friday the 13th, and it works. This movie does justice to the originals. All right, so number 2 and number 1 are really close, and actually I am positive on which one I want to put at number 1. But number 2, I have Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This was a movie where Jason makes his grand return after Part 5 kind of flops, and it's the finale to the Tommy Jarvis saga. And it works. This movie works really well, and I really like this movie. This is kind of the start to, you have to kill Jason, and then Jason comes back, which, not many people realize that didn't happen up until this point. Jason never died up until this point. Nobody technically killed him. I mean, he didn't die until the 4th one. So, and this movie just works. This is the first movie that looks modern, in a way. The first 4 movies, and even the 5th one, just look old anymore. The 6th one kind of looks somewhat more modern, and I just think some of the sequences work, like in the paintball forest, chopping off the 3 paintballers' heads, and then the other guy's body being found all over the place. Killing the 2 lovers in the RV, and at the end the RV flipping over and Jason just kind of pops out and walks away. That one's really cool. Killing the one camp counselor in her cabin works. Like just a lot of... This one works really, really well. And and it's very gothic and horror, which is very cool that I like. And I think this actually has one of the only, in my opinion, 2 legit deaths of Jason. Well, besides the remake, I forgot about the remake, but like by tying him to the bottom of the lake and then, chopping his neck open with the rudder of a boat, And I just think it's cool. Again, I wish we got Corey Feldman to play Tommy Jarvis, but I guess it's okay. The movie works a lot. How it's the town's trying to recover from Jason before, and they're trying to just hush it up and all kinds of other things. Again, this almost was my number 1. But my number 1 is Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. This has some of the most... this movie's so, in a way, different than slash movies back in the day. And the director, he was kind of funny. He was like, well, what can we make it? Well, what if we got a kid and a dog? How about twins? And so they got all these things. And this is the most genuine cast, I feel, out of any Friday the 13th movie there is, I feel. The characters feel genuine, to me at least. I like them, and I like some of the deaths are actually cool and different in this movie. I like the killing of, what's his name? The one guy who played, who was in Back to the Future, who played, George McFly in Back to the Future. He gets stabbed in the hand with a corkscrew and then gets axed or sliced in the face with a meat cleaver. one of the twins gets killed, and this is my favorite shot of the entire movie. You're just kind of outside, and you know you can kind of see the party going on, and then lightning flashes, and you see Jason with like some kind of sharp object, and he just stabs her in the stomach. Like, it seems like, especially with modern horror, you have to see the death. Whereas that's so cool how subtle that is. You know, killing the other one by throwing her out of a window works. Like, this movie works, and it also has the only legit and the best Jason death ever, with him getting cleaved in the head, and then he falls on it, and his head kind of slides. This is the best Friday the 13th, hands down, in my opinion. It just works so well. The characters are genuine. Jason works really, really well. He's a badass, and but he's not supernatural yet. It's just so cool. You should watch all these movies. But yeah, so now on to the next one, which tomorrow is Halloween.